Welcome to One Insight. My name is Litvin. I grew up in London and I now live in LA. And this is a podcast for extraordinary top performers and their coaches. You see, I've coached some of the most successful and talented people on the planet. I can see what most people cannot see, and I dare to say what most people wouldn't dare to say. And what I know about success is that on the other side of it, it can be incredibly lonely. You can feel more of an imposter the more successful you become. And when you're the most interesting person in the room, you're actually in the wrong room. Clients who are more successful, more intelligent, and wealthier than you need your support more than they know and more than you can imagine. I coach around insight. Life looks one way, something happens, and the world looks different, and your entire world changes. It can happen in an instant. And this podcast is called One Insight because a single insight can change everything. Hi, Jordan. I'm looking forward to this conversation. As usual, I've got no plan for where we go. I like to show up and be in the moment and say, where shall we go? So, Manjit, let me start with you today. What's on your mind?
It's I'm feeling cornered right now. It's like having that conversation with you and then getting deep there because I've been trying to connect some dots and somewhere the word authenticity, awareness, everything comes to my mind where I've got two worlds and I'm trying to connect them together because I know that's the point where I'll get the insight I'm looking for. Yeah, I think that's the first thing that's coming to my mind. I've got two different versions. I'm trying to combine them together and then see what happens when I grind them up.
Oh, so that's at a high level of abstraction. I actually,
Yes.
if I'm really honest, I have no idea what you're talking about.
I know. Yeah. So in my mind right now, I have this whole consulting world, where I do contracting for retailers in the capacity of a consultant. And then this other world I've created where I'm a coach. I've done some coaching certifications, which is fine. I've been on a learning curve for the last 4 years. The Prosperous Coach shifted my whole world in terms of the way I looked at coaching and then making the whole book happen. But for me, I'm kind of struggling to get both the worlds together. It's pretty much like, if I may say so, being married to two people or having two affairs or dating two women at the same time. And I'm like, I really need to make a choice here because this isn't going to go, it'll only take me that far.
Huh. So I'm curious about it. I love it. Do you see what happens the moment you get out of abstraction into something concrete? Now there's a place for us to go. And so it's really powerful as a coach to listen to your clients' metaphors. And you have this metaphor, right? I'm dating this woman over here, I'm dating this woman over here. How do I choose, basically, right? That's what you're asking me. But I've got a sense you got it the wrong way around. What you didn't realize is that party girl over there that you love to go out on dates with and is really fun, and that girl over here who loves to go on adventures, perhaps on vacations and travel, it's actually the same person. And why does it look like they're two separate things? I love it when I meet a coach who has a background in consulting. Because for me, those are just tools in your toolbox. There are sometimes when I consult with people. And there are sometimes when I'm a coach. And there's sometimes when I'm a mentor. And there's sometimes when I just have a chat and someone has an insight anyway. And what if you didn't need to make this decision about, do I marry her or do I marry her? And you say, hey, when I show up, what I bring is a background of years as a consultant. I know from the notes you wrote to me, you've helped people raise millions of dollars for projects in the past. You've worked with really powerful coaching clients too. You've had a book published by a major publishing company. Why not be all of those people? What do you do, Manjit? Well, it's hard to explain. I'm a published author. I'm a highly successful consultant. I'm a coach. I'm a mentor. I'm a guide. Why not be all of those?
Yeah, because there's a massive what I do know is one of the reasons why I'm successful in consulting, and especially in a tough market out there where clients do call me again and again, is because there are all these coaching frameworks that I'm able to use and offer in the consulting side that other consultants are not even aware of. And then sometimes I wonder if these people knew the power of deep coaching and if they simply applied it in their business world, it would change the way projects are delivered. That's one thing.
I've got no doubt. What I'm curious about is, why aren't you telling them?
I suppose there's fear is the one big thing. It's fine writing a book and everything else. It gets people excited. But making this shift happen while you're paying the bills, making sure that you're able to provide the bread and butter while you're trying to make the transition. And I'm being very honest, this is probably the biggest fear, and I'm going to go through it now, is as in the louder my coaching space gets, on LinkedIn or Facebook, or when I talk about the book and everything else, and when I talk to everybody who gives me, all the consulting business, they sometimes go, "Oh, are you kind of shifting towards coaching now? Do you not want to do consulting anymore?" Or sometimes in my consulting world, I use coaching references, or my energy levels are so high, they normally go, "No, just bring it down a bit, tone it down a bit. Let's just deliver this thing right now. We don't want something that's larger than life." And while I'm going through this tussle, which I'm aware of, that's where the word authenticity comes to my mind. I'm trying to look for that authentic version of myself, which I'm like, yeah, this is me. And this is the state I want to be in.
I like it. You remind me of that song, "This Is Me." I forget the movie that was from, but it's so powerful to own who you are. You're Manjit. You have a background as a consultant and a background as a coach, and you bring it all into the mix. So be careful. If your energy is getting that high, it might be a clue that you're more excited about something than they are, which is a great thing to catch. But what I'm talking about is not, look, I get the fear. You have 2 kids right now, a little baby as well. I get the fear of thinking about, if I leave this lucrative career and go to this new one, which is, who knows, is very uncertain, what will happen. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, when you've got your next consulting gig and you're sitting down with the CEO or the leaders, say, hey, what I include in this is a one-on-one strategy session where I work with you for an hour. That's all you call it. You don't say, I'm doing a special coaching session. Most people either don't know that word, so they're not familiar with it, or they know it too much because their auntie and their sister have become a life coach online overnight, and it demeans it. So don't be like that. Hey, included in this consulting package is 3 one-on-one strategy sessions. I recommend they're with the CEO, but sometimes they're with the senior team. Your choice. How would you like to use those sessions? And it's the prosperous coach approach, right? Sell the experience, not the concept. Don't talk about coaching ever. You have to be a secret agent of coaching in your industry. You're the James Bond of coaching, right? No one has to know you're a coach. You felt that.
I do have, so, I do these deep coaching conversations one-to-one as and when I get time outside the consulting space. I got invited to do a
So slow down a second. I really want to catch this. Bookmark that thought. But you just said outside the consulting space. We'll talk about that in a minute. I'm talking about around you all the time are extraordinary high-level people running great organizations where Steve Chandler used to talk about, there's a man in the desert, and on his back is a container full of ice cold, crystal clear water. And he's walking through the desert, and all around him are people saying, I'm gasping for water, I'm thirsty, I need water. And this man's walking along saying, you know what, my self-esteem is not high enough yet. I'm not sure I value myself enough yet to give it to you. I haven't got enough experience in this to give it to you. And people are dying of thirst all around him. Those people who you're consulting with, you do a great job for. I know that because you get called back again and again in a highly competitive industry. You just told me that. Do you have any doubt that if they spent some time with you, you won't call it coaching, but you'll be doing what we know as coaching, challenging their thinking, helping them to dream bigger, getting some of their blocks out the way. Do you have any doubt if they had 1, 2, 3 or more of those sessions with you on top of a consulting package, that things would be even more powerful than they are right now?
Absolutely no doubt. I know I can make that happen.
So I'm going to be provocative and say you're being really selfish right now. Because you're not letting them have access to that. It's one of the tools in your tool belt. And you've got this story around what it means, and it doesn't mean anything. It's no different to another consulting tool that you used for years. I've got no doubt if you had a system about processes or a system about people or a system about products, you know how to bring those systems in and say, hey, look, this is the process system that we use. It's one of our consulting tools. Well, you have another tool now. You've got to make up a name for it. Don't call it coaching. We have the private consulting session that's included in the consulting package. And so when would you like your private consulting session?
It's quite interesting you say that, because I'm actually doing that very thing in the consulting world. You know, whatever certifications a consultant might have around project management or whatever, when they go to a client, they don't talk about, I've got this PMP or I've got this Prince 2. The conversation is never about what frameworks or what tools I have. The conversation is always about what can I deliver for you?
Yeah.
In the coaching world, yeah, if I copy paste out a coaching world, is exactly the same thing. Forget the tools. It's about how can I serve you powerfully.
Nobody cares. Nobody cares about your systems and your processes. They really don't. They don't care if you're a transformational coach, if you've studied with Bob Proctor, if you've studied with the ICF. They never heard of these things. All they care about is, here's my challenge, here's my dream, can you help me? Give them an experience to take them closer, and they go, oh my God, I want more of this. Or, you're not for me, thank you. Keep giving people an experience of what you do. Do not call it coaching. You are now the 007 of coaching in the corporate world, in the consulting world.
I had got invited to do an intensive for about 30 women, and they were from different backgrounds. One was a 9/11 survivor. There were a few doctors in there. And I had designed a typical 8-hour session, right? Self-analysis, everything else with all the tools. And we had some technology issues. And at that time, the words deep dive and intensives were running in my mind. So I thought, you know what, I'll just take this completely raw. And just at the back of that one statement, people know what you do, but they rarely know how you feel. Let's explore that. Just with that one statement, there's so much deep coaching that I could do. When I walked out of that whole session after those 8 hours, I was on an epic high. Through to Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and an epic high. I was like, this is me. This is what I want to do. And then you just feel a dip because, it's a bit of a past memory now. And then you're again looking for that juice. How can I create that experience for someone?
Well, so be careful, right? If you're looking for the highs to come from these experiences, you're going to go through these ups and downs. You've got to take that out of the mix. The game to play is, and I love it, this is a story you can enroll clients for the rest of your life. I've been training consulting. I've been doing consulting for 10, 15, I don't know how many years you've been doing. You tell them that, your experience. And the other day, I went into a room to do a consulting session with a team of people from all sorts of backgrounds, all sorts of levels of capability, some extraordinary people in the room too. And technology went down. And so I couldn't use all those particular tools I had planned. I had to pull out some other tools. And these are conversational tools. And we got to the heart of what was really going on for people. People shared in a powerful way what was holding them back, what they were dreaming about. And because of that, they are flying higher than they would ever have done with those original tools. I'd like to give you a taste of those tools. I'd like to put on a half-day session. I'd like to do a 1-hour session. I want to do a 2-hour private session with you because these tools are so powerful. And I've been selfish. I've kept them from you. I want to give them to you.
I can see the connection there. Absolute. Yeah. It's interesting when you spoke about the desert and everything else. And I've just had that thought now. It's probably the insight I've had is there are so many big retailers in the UK I'm doing consulting for, and everyone's going through the same type. There's so much happening, politically and online is disrupting the whole retail market. And everyone's trying to figure out the right way to deliver a program or a project. And they're taking these Prince to PMPs, all these different frameworks, blending together, trying to create a localized version, and actually hiring consultants to make that happen. And I know, and I'm aware of businesses who have tried that with 2 or 3 different consulting companies, and that's it. They've been at next idea. And actually, it's not that framework of project. It's about getting people together. And this is where I can see, that's what they're actually looking for. The ice cubes it's not about what framework of project I'm using to deliver it. It's more about the mindset and trying to connect people to what the business is trying to deliver.
Manjit, be careful your microphone's not rubbing on your shirt.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks.
So it's...
So what you're telling me, what I'm hearing is they're afraid about the future. If you're in retail anywhere, you're probably afraid about the future. I really get that.
Yeah.
And they think there's a magic tool out there. If I get the right tool, the right system, the right process, the person with the right acronyms behind their name, I don't have to be afraid about the future anymore. But what I know that you can bring is all that stuff that they think will help and might at certain times, but you also have the ability to get behind their thinking. Because if you're afraid, it doesn't matter what tool you're going to use, you're not going to make the best decision. If you're growing your business, but your relationship with your husband or your wife is not strong or is in danger of falling apart, you're not going to make the best decisions. If you're making millions of dollars a year, but your kids aren't talking to you, you're coming in with all sorts of stress into the business. You know this. It's time to speak about this, because then you bring something that none of those other people with all their systems can bring. You bring something really unique, an understanding of human behavior. Hey, Manjit, you wrote a book about this.
Yeah, and that's where the book was born, right? Because I had this high-end job in the city at the age I was in and making on a really good pay package. I was living the dream, something I never thought I would achieve. And then just sort of leaving it, just saying I quit, and I just left the building. And that's the reason why I wrote the book. And this is where I had picked up something you had said somewhere. Don't write a book should be written because it needs to be written, not because of sales and everything else. And as I was writing the book, I then realized that everything that happened at that time wasn't about what was happening around me. It was more about the way I was responding to the events around me.
So someone just shared something with me. I just posted online that we've got 55,000 copies now sold of The Prosperous Coach. And people were saying, congratulations. And this guy responded and he wrote, I read somewhere once that you should only write a book that you'd be excited to talk about for the next 3 years of your life. And I realized, wow, I wrote that book in 2012. We started writing it. For 7 years, I've been talking about this stuff because it excites me to this day. You wrote a book and you're not talking about it, man, because you're so afraid that there's this story about what's going on. Again, it's time to be a secret agent. I don't say come in tomorrow and say, let me take off my disguise. I've been a coach, guys. I'm saying be a secret agent. You have some really powerful tools that will help people. You're not afraid to use all the other tools. You made up a story that this one doesn't fit into the toolbox. It's just like that. Just put it back into the toolbox. And when it's needed, call it out. I'm going to pause in this moment and let you sit with that. Hi, Jordan.
Hello.
Hey. What'd you get from that? Did you get an insight from any of that was going on?
For me,
Yeah, for you. How does that play out for your life? Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I definitely can relate. That was something that I've gone through, because I used to work in advertising, and I was building a coaching business, and it felt like two parts of me. And, it was like, how do I merge the two? And, they kind of bleed together and don't bleed together. And, just knowing from personal experience, sometimes when you remove that framework and there is no clear division, now you have this like nebulous blob, and it's almost more challenging to navigate because now you have to put it together in a new shape, and there's no rules or structure to it. And sometimes that is more challenging than you anticipate. So that's what I just know from personal experience.
Challenging, changing careers, right? And we make up all these stories. So a lot of my time when I work with very top performers who leave one field and come into this new field called coaching. So I just spend a lot of time messing with their thinking about the stories they've made up about what they can say, what they shouldn't say, what they should leave behind. And most of the time I'm encouraging them to what they should bring with. So let's play, Jordan. How can I serve you in this moment? What would make this a really powerful conversation?
Yeah, I guess one thing that I've been thinking about of late is the concept of non-attachment and navigating the emotional roller coaster of life / entrepreneurship. And, you have an expectation, or somebody tells you that they're going to do something or follow through on something. And then I think it's just human nature. Maybe it's just how I was brought up. You get some sort of level of excitement of like, oh my gosh, this is going to be a thing, or I'm super excited to work with them, or I'm excited for this opportunity to pan out. And then, it doesn't turn out the way that you want it.
So
or
make it real.
Through.
Make it real for me. Bring it to one story that I can help you with.
When you talk to a client and you're really excited that they're going to...
No, make it real. I was speaking to Fred. He was so excited to work with me. Because this is what we can talk generically about. This happens to coaches all the time. Someone says they want to work with us and something comes up. Maybe we didn't serve them powerfully enough. Maybe they got afraid about the money they'd have to invest. Maybe they're not ready yet and they'll be a client in 6 months and it won't even be an issue. I don't want to talk generically. I want to see, how can I help you? Tell me about one specific issue that if I helped you with, you could create a client from.
Well, I had a client that was excited to work with me in a mastermind capacity, and we talked several times, and I got really excited about it. And then, it ended up not being a good fit. And, it felt like it was building to something and then kind of cascaded down. And,
how long ago was this?
This was last week.
Okay. What was their first name?
Jennifer.
Okay. Tell me about Jennifer.
Jennifer, she's a business professional. She works as a consultant, ironically, and she's transitioning into coaching. So it's kind of a similar concept. And, she's been building her business, and, we've connected, and, she had kind of a few different things she was wanting to focus on in her business. And it seemed like it would be a good fit. And, the objection part sometimes becomes challenging. And then we had a few conversations, and
so let me slow you down. I need to find more about her.
Yeah.
So you've been on this path, right? You can be a mentor and a guide for her. You've transitioned from the corporate world into this world of coaching, and someone wants to follow you on that path. It could be a great relationship there. But you've got wisdom, you've got coaching ability, you've got experience. Could be a great fit.
Right.
There's a little clue for me in, I was really excited to work with her. You said that more than once.
Mm-hmm.
So watch that. I remember once I had someone come to me and ask me to coach him because he had an opportunity. He called it an opportunity of a lifetime, because he was an actor and it was a top Hollywood film director. One of the A-list directors wanted to potentially cast him in a movie. He was auditioning. And he said, it's an opportunity of a lifetime, Rich. You've got to help me. I spent the next half an hour messing with his thinking by telling him what this guy could be terrible. This could be his worst movie ever. And everyone laughs at this movie. It happens to even A-list directors. And you'd be out of the film industry forever because it was such a bad movie. Maybe he doesn't like you and he does something to harm your career for the rest of your life, which has happened recently with the Me Too movement. We found out that sometimes directors do that. So I spent 30 minutes messing with his thinking. So when he went into that audition, it wasn't an opportunity of a lifetime and he was more excited than the director. It was like, I'm auditioning you too. I want to check out, like, do I really want to work with you? Don't care what other people say about you and your reputation. Like, do I actually want to spend the next 6 months working on this movie? And it really helped ground him and slow him down. And so when I hear someone say, I was so excited to work with a client, I want to do the same thing. Hey, let's slow it down. Did she actually meet all your criteria for a dream client? Let me ask you this. Is she ready to hire a coach? And what I mean by that is, do you have knowledge or evidence? Has she ever had a coach before?
Not a private coach, but she's been in programs.
Has she invested much time, energy, and money in her personal growth and professional development?
Yes.
These are good questions for people to ask. If sometimes we miss this when we jump straight into let me coach you and we haven't checked in. So she's invested in herself, never had a private coach before. So there may be a gap in her thinking there that's not something she's able to invest in, willing to invest in. Hasn't really experienced it enough yet to know that it's the right time to invest in.
So I guess my question to you is, because the not getting excited is sort of in the camp, in my opinion, of the non-attachment. So how do you stay grounded in, I mean, I have moments where I'm good at it and moments where I'm just terrible at it. So like, how can I get into a mostly constant, like 80% or more of non-attachment of, expectations? And I go back and forth of, you don't want to not have an expectation or kind of protect yourself and not get excited about something. So
I'll give you two ways. No. Genuine excitement is okay. I did it earlier today. I coached someone and then I looked them in the eyes and said, I would love to work with you. I don't say that very often, but once in a while I do. It's a chapter in my book, Never Propose to a Woman 10 Days After You Met Her. I wouldn't recommend it, but I did to my wife. We've been married for 12 years this year. We have a normal relationship with ups and downs, but I just knew. And sometimes it's okay. Like, hey, I would love to work with you. And it's okay if you're a no, but I don't want to hold back from saying that. That's great. Feeling all that excitement and not saying it, that feels off because they can feel that energy. They don't necessarily get it up here, but something they feel and they don't know what it is. So it feels kind of creepy. So you can call yourself out on it. That's an easy thing to do, to be really authentic. Hey, Fred, I just caught myself. I love that vision you've got. I love the dream that you've got. Those blocks that you shared with me, I work with people on them all the time. And I realized I'm really excited at the thought of us working together. But I'm calling myself out instead of hiding it because it might not be the right time. You might not be ready. You might decide you don't need a coach right now, and you don't need a coach. But if you'd like to work together, I didn't want to hide it from you. I'd love to. I think we could create something amazing together. So there's a really genuine way that has them go, oh, that feels good, even if they're not interested. That's one way to handle it. Another way to handle it, frankly, Jordan, is to make sure you've got other clients coming in. And if you don't have some kind of part-time gig that can bring money in or find another way to generate money, whether it's property or whatever it is, other things that you can do to generate money so you just never need that client. It's okay to want a client. When you need one, that is felt on the other end.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go back. Remind me of her first name again.
Jennifer.
How did it end? How did that conversation end?
That we would, check in, towards the end of the year.
Take me back before you said, well, let's check in before the end of the year. What was the thing that was said before that?
I remember. She was just like, I need to integrate where I am. And I said, I totally understand. Sometimes, if I've been in a lot of programs or something like that, I need to kind of pause for a minute and digest it and integrate it. Because if you just keep going and going and going, you're just consuming all the time and you don't actually put it into practice. And so, I said, I totally understand. And why don't you take some time and space to integrate where you are, and then we'll meet up, in a few months and we can see where you're at.
I find it really powerful in those moments to call it what it is.
Mm-hmm.
So Jennifer, let's call this a very clear no for now,
Mm-hmm.
so that you don't need to feel any guilt or obligation on your end that we need to even speak again. It really helps them to relax on their side, because most people are not doing this. Most people are like, well, let's check in a few months.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see it. Maybe they don't want a coach right now. Maybe you remind them of their sister. And it doesn't matter how powerful you are, you're never going to be their coach, because there's something that's just not there. And it's hard to say that. So we say, I'm interested. Let me integrate. Let me think about it for a couple of weeks. I'd love to work with you, but the timing is not right. We make up all these stories. I literally did it myself a few years back. Even though I teach this stuff, there was somebody who I was really interested to work with. And I got on a call with him, and I was really underwhelmed. It wasn't the right coach for me. And he said, would you like to work together? I said, I'd love to. I just couldn't say, no, thank you. You're not serving me very well. You've missed something important that was important to me, and you couldn't see it. I'm human, right? I couldn't say it. And we must be doing the same to other people sometimes, right? So by calling it what it is, let's call it a no for now, Jennifer. And that's fine. Sometimes people are not ready to work with me the first time we spend time together. It's a lovely phrase to use. Let's call it a no for now. Would you like to check in a few months? Would you like me to call you in a few months? Would you like to put a date on the calendar? Or should we just leave this and say we're complete for now? All of those are great options.
Mm-hmm.
It just feels so nice. Oh, you know what, Jordan? Let me just leave it for now. I'll call you if I want to. It feels so nice, because you don't often get that in sales. People are always trying. They call it handling objections in sales training.
I know. I hate them. I don't like handling objections.
Well, I'll tell you what I do. I have another phrase. I call it honoring objections.
Uh-huh.
Hey, Jennifer, if this isn't the right time, then I agree with you. You shouldn't do anything further on this until you've taken all the time you need. Maybe we're never meant to work with one another, and that's perfect too. It really feels nice to have your objections honored. And if they were sometimes we were kind of intellectually testing someone, and we really did want it, we're like, well, actually, could we check in a couple of weeks? You'll sometimes get that too.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, there's so many different ways to approach sales, and some feel good and some don't. And the open space to me feels better.
The other thing you could do now is actually reconnect. Hey, Jennifer, I was thinking about you, and I realized that from everything you told me, this really isn't the right time for you to begin coaching. And I really want you to know I respect that decision, or I honor that decision, or I think that's the right decision for you at this time. I'm not going to reach out to you first, because I want to make sure you have all the space that you need. And if you do want to reach out to me, I'll be here for you. Whether you want to jump on the phone for a 10-minute chat or have a deeper conversation, I'll be here for you. But for now, I want to leave you all the space that you need, because it sounds like that would be really valuable to you. You get a message like that, that feels really solid and great.
So I guess through the space, that's how you create the non-attachment.
It's the distinction between wanting and needing.
Mm-hmm.
I get you want her as a client. She'd be an awesome client. You're letting her know you don't need her. I mean, you're human, right? Non-attachment is a wonderful thing to aspire to. Practice years of meditation, sitting in your cave in the Himalayas, and maybe you'll get to non-attachment. People have been aspiring to that for millennia. And you can practice a version of non-attachment by letting them know, I don't need you. Let me check in with Manjit for a second. Manjit, what do you get from that? Anything for you that comes up?
I think the want and need bit was coming at me again. And am I being needy to try and create the coaching space instead of actually focusing on what I really want? So maybe I'm saying I need the coaching space, I need the consulting space for earning money, but what do I really want? I want these two to come together. If that's where I focus my energy, that's where I think the real magic will happen.
Yeah, frankly, I wouldn't leave the lucrative career you have right now with a 15-month-old. I wouldn't leave it. But I would learn how to build on it. You know, there are not many coaches who make the kind of money that you do in the consulting world. And it is definitely possible. I've helped many do that. But for now, somebody said to me once, having little kids is like running a startup. So you've got you got 4 businesses right now. 3 of them are startups and 1 successful. Like, don't let go of the successful consulting practice to focus only on the 3 startups. Have them all be part of the mix.
And there's an element to it where I've given more than a decade to the whole consulting side, and I do get a buzz out of delivering things and everything else. And there have been times when there was a break between 2 consulting assignments I'm doing, and I choose to go full throttle on coaching at that time, you know, having as many conversations as possible. But at that time, I do feel I've spent more than 10 years understanding an industry, understanding the art of delivering projects. And there's so much I can give back to that industry. I just can't park it aside like that. And the other thing which I just realized was I'm sort of having conversations about what's the next book that I want to write. Not in terms of getting a result out of it, but what's the next journey I want to be on, where I can create something while writing the book and learning. And all the stories that I get are from being on ground and actually being a part of that whole clan, you know, being a part of that consulting world where action really happens. So it's never going to go away. It's more about how do I bring the whole coaching aspect of thing without not coaching, but what's beyond coaching. How do I integrate that?
Yeah, yours is a job of integration. That's the perfect word. It's an integration word, integration concept. It's how do you, what you do in organizations, you also do with individuals. It's called consulting. It's just a word somebody made up. What do? You go and spend time with them. You find out what their problem is. You find out what their dreams are. You find out what's holding them back. And you bring some tools in that get them past their blocks and move them forward. Well, that's exactly what you do in coaching. We just made up these 2 names and you think they're 2 different characters. It's the same thing, Manjit.
Or sometimes there's a flip thing where you pick up a consulting framework, a typical project management tool, and you apply that in the coaching space and it just works.
Nice. So what you just told me is that what I'm finally hearing is that there is not Manjit the consultant, Manjit the coach. There's just Manjit with 10 years of experience in all sorts of frameworks and tools, and bring that with you wherever you go, my friend. You're a powerful man with a powerful background with the potential to change organizations and change individuals' lives forever. That's powerful, man.
I get that. That really hit me hard. I'm like, yeah, felt the connection with that statement. Absolutely.
Awesome. Jordan, what's your takeaway from all of this today?
Well, I love what you said about the integration, because I think that we can definitely, you know, sometimes there's like shame or guilt of, you know, I'm this person and I'm that person. But when you realize, you know, it's all just you and there's different needs and facets and, you know, desires that you have. And it's okay if it takes a different shape. One day it may be this, one day you may feel more coach, one day you may feel more consultant. And, you know, I think if you have
a similar background, right? You've got a background in the corporate world. You've got this understanding of advertising. You've got an ability to look at an individual and know about their brand, how they market themselves. You can do the same in an organization. You could work with them on their mindset. You could also work with them on their website. Right? You could do it all. That's amazing. There are not many people who have that ability to span that entire spectrum. I really encourage you to start speaking about that in the world, because it makes you very unique.
Can you explain that a little bit more?
I will just repeat myself. What do you do, Jordan? Well, you know what? I spent over a decade in the corporate world. I worked in high-level advertising. I understand marketing and branding. I work with organizations at a high level. I've also got years of experience of understanding human behavior. Mm-hmm. So I do the same with individuals. I help individuals get past the blocks that hold them back, turn their dreams into reality. And sometimes I, frankly, help them do the things that are needed to make that real. Create a brand, market themselves in the world, and sell what they're up to. I do all of that.
Yeah. Well, you know, similar to Manjit, it's like I have all these different parts that I do, and learning to see that as an asset as opposed to, a detriment of, I should just do one thing. And I mean, from a strategic standpoint, sometimes it becomes more challenging in the marketing because you're like, well, I do a lot of stuff and I have the ability to lean into a lot of different areas with someone and, see that as a benefit versus, oh, I'm a hot mess because I can focus on too many things.
One more time because I don't think it's landed.
Right.
And I want to see if you can take this in. And then afterwards, I want you to listen back to this. What you do is extraordinary, Jordan. You've got this background in the corporate world. You've won awards for your work. Am I right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
You've got a level of success in the understanding how to take a concept and put it out in the world and have it be sold, to go from nothing to something, making lots of money. Am I right?
Yeah.
That's a really powerful and unique skill. You can do it in organizations and you can do it for individuals. Mm-hmm. And I would start talking about that. I would say, I got a background because I understand advertising, marketing, branding, how to take something that doesn't exist yet into a world that makes a lot of money. I can do it for you as an individual, and I can do it in your organization. Is that of interest?
Mm-hmm.
Some people will go, I don't know what that means. They're not your people.
Right.
That's exactly what I need. Then let's have a conversation. And I wanted to say it that way to see if it can land, because I get the story about this is a hot mess of all these things. No, it's not. It's really, really powerful. And to have all of that in one person is incredible and very, very rare. And Manjit, if we had more time, I would have held that silence. If we weren't on a podcast, I would have let Jordan sit with that silence, because it could have gone for a long time. Because that's the moment when I saw for the first time it was beginning to land. I think, frankly, Jordan, if we were coaching together, I probably need to say that to you almost word for word on a regular basis for 6 to 8 weeks before it really begin to sink in. So
I'll just put you on a loop and listen to it on my iPhone.
I would highly recommend it, because you've got to let it sink in, because we can't see this. This is what I call zone of genius. This is the stuff that you two do so well. You can do it in your sleep. You love it. It makes you on fire. Manjit, you did it once in a room full of people and you were on fire for 5 days. It's so close to you that it's like, doesn't everybody do this? Or I feel like a hot mess. No, it's absolutely extraordinary. I'm grateful to the two of you for spending time with me today. And I want, if you're going to take one thing away from this conversation, it's these words. I believe in you. I believe in you. I think they're the most powerful words in coaching. You can't fake them. You can't make them up. But when you mean them and you say them to somebody and you really mean them, they feel it. And whether or not you get it, that it's true for you, I'm pretty sure each of you will get that I mean it about the other one, right? So just take it that, Jordan, if you get how much I mean it for Manjit, that I probably mean it for you too. And Manjit, where you get that I really mean that for Jordan, because you can see that in her, how extraordinary she is, I probably mean it for you too. Thank you both for spending time with me today. Thank you for sharing yourselves so openly. I'm really in awe of who you are and what you've done in the past. And I've got no doubt about great things coming down the road.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For most of human history, it wasn't called coaching. It was called leadership. And it's what I love to do, to coach people, to lead people, and to mess with people's thinking. If you'd like more of this, or if you'd like to learn more about our community of extraordinary top performers, go to richlitvin.com/oneinsight.